there, it's Jean from the Inky Owl Studio. Thank you for stopping by. I just want to say again how much I appreciate everyone's comments and support. They mean a lot to me. They really do, and I read all of them. And in fact, a few subbies said that they were able to get a Edith Holden book for under $3 at a thrift store. Now, I have never seen one at a thrift store. I'm just not one of the lucky few. But if you ever do see one, whether or not you ever intend to do anything with it, as far as, making something, be sure you pick one up because you will enjoy the book just for what it is by itself. But yeah, they are not easy to come by at thrift stores. At least it's been my experience. Now, it might depend on what part of the country you're from. But here in the U.S., that's just been my experience. So anyway, today what I want to do is I want to show you how I finish this off. We're going to glue this together. We're going to put in the eyelets, and we're going to make the little journal that goes on the inside here. So at this point, I finished up, we did the front. I finished up the back part of it. Our ties are in. All the elements are inside. And now we're going to just glue it together, and very straightforward. I glue this bottom part here. So because in my file folder there is a gap, quite a big gap between this layer and the bottom layer, I'm going to glue the under layer here so I don't get glue upon my part that's going to show. So let me grab my glue bottle, which I probably oh, here she is. There we go. Probably should have started this before I got on here, but now I had thought about leaving pockets like here in the side, right? I had thought about only gluing this top portion and leaving a pocket here on the inside. But I'm not going to do it, and mainly because this is going to be really stuffed with stuff. But it might be something you might want to think about if that's, if you'd rather your pockets be there rather than not have so many, so much ephemera and stuff going on here. You might want to put a pocket there on the side. Then you would just be gluing just across the top. But I'm gluing it together. Now, another reason why I really like, this is Tanya's design for the folio. I really like this design because if you're using, I think I mentioned it before, but if you are using like a, I feel like it's a little dark in here. If you're using a medium weight type of a journal, now not the dollar store kind, because those are super thin, but just like a regular office file folder that is not heavyweight, let's say, then this really does give you quite a stable cover, and it might just be something to think about. Anyways, now I've never done that, but it just makes sense to me. It would do that. Now I am going to make sure I put glue here on the spine portion because I do want that to sit down well. And it's just, I know this is kind of boring, but it's just going through, trying to squeeze this glue out. There we go. And we'll just put it down. Now I want to make sure that my spine is well centered, and then I don't get the score lines off. So that is really kind of the first priority, where I go in here and try to make sure that that is where it should be. And actually probably, and this is why I like Fabri-Tac, because it gives you a minute, just a minute, to readjust if you need to readjust a little bit. Okay. And kind of make sure it stays down over here. Now we're going to even do more, we're going to be putting eyelets in here, which will make it actually be even more glued together or held together. But right now, I just want to make sure that I'm lining up the two score lines. I know this is really hard to do on camera because it's such a large project. Okay, I guess I got that on there. Okay, and there you go. So that's glued in very quick and easy. Now I'm going to be grabbing eyelets. So I went ahead and put the grommets in off camera. And the reason I did that is because the way I do it is very, it's not smooth and easy, and it's because I'm too cheap to go out and buy grommet pliers, to tell you the truth. What you really need to do it the way I'm doing are grommet pliers, and I'll put the name down below in the description box. But I did want to go over briefly just a little thing about grommets. So the ones that you get with your crocodile to put in, they just come as a grommet by itself like that. And when you put it in, on the back side is going to be sort of a jagged edge, and on the front side, of course, is where the grommet looks nice. But there's going to have this little jagged edge if you just use the eyelet or grommet, the way it is. And that's usually what happens when you use a crocodile tool. To get a nicer look, and so let me show you here, this look here, where it's nice and smooth on the inside, as well as, the outside. Of course, I could have showed you this one. To get that nice smooth look, so it's not all jagged on both sides of it, you need to use grommets that come with rings. So what I mean is, you'll get a package that has the eyelet, and then it has these little rings that go with it. Washers, I guess. Yeah, these are called washers. So you get these two parts that go with it. Now you're looking at this, you're saying, we are memory keepers. Crocodile. What do you mean you can't use the crocodile? Well, you can't. I have tried both the small handheld one, and I've tried the big crocodile, and I cannot get these washers to work with the eyelets. So the way I get them to work is I already had an eyelet setter in, probably because it used to be before crocodiles came out, you had to do it this way. You had to, you would take your, let me just do this really fast. You would take your piece of paper, you would take your eyelet, you would take a piece of paper, make your hole, put your eyelet through, put the washer over, right? And then you take your setter, and you're going to take a hammer and hammer really hard to set that washer and eyelet together. So you kind of make a sandwich with your eyelet, your paper, and then the washer, and set it. I suppose if you looked for grommet tool, you might find these. I'm sure they're somewhere around. I just don't know how to search for those. But here's the thing, though. If you buy grommet pliers, you get the whole thing all in one. You get the hole maker, and you get the setter with the squeeze tool. Yeah, if you look at the one down below, you'll see what I mean. That I would recommend doing that if that's what you want to do. So Yeah, that's because I know I've been asked before about setting these, and that's just an explanation of how I get them in there. Anyhow, it's sad. It's sad that this company makes them and I can't get them to work. And I'm not the only one. Somebody else also on the YouTube told me one time uh, that they couldn't get them to work either. So, but I do like them, and I just have to use a separate setting tool to do it with. So anyways, that's that. So now let's go ahead and make the little booklet that goes on the inside here. And so what I've done, taken a piece of 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, folded it in half. I've glued down washi tape and make sure it's glued down here in the center so that this is nicely reinforced. Because what I essentially am going to do is I'm making a cover that can be used over and over again, and then just the paper replaced. So that's sort of the goal here. And now you want your journal cover to fit inside the eyelets. So you don't want them to be too past. So what I do is I'm about not quite halfway on the other side of that eyelet, and not quite halfway marked down here. So I'm going to be cutting off this much on mine. So you'll want to measure. You don't want to cover. You don't want like this, because it would be difficult for whatever you're putting in there to wrap around it. So you want to make sure it fits not any more than halfway in each eyelet. So let me just cut that off. And so here is the cover. And then you'll want to measure out this way, and you don't want it to be, so you'll make your spine straight and put it up against there and estimate that you want this to fit on the inside a little bit of your file folder. So I'll put a tick mark right there, and I do believe, let me measure, let me give you the measurements. 7 7/8 this way, and yours is going to vary depending on how you set your eyelets in, because it just may be off a little bit. But this ended up being 7 7/8 tall and 5 1/8 wide. That is the dimensions of my journal cover. And I'll cut off that or that little bit over there that I marked. So now we have a journal cover that will fit in there, quite nicely. Yeah, will fit well. And now I'm going to put rounded corners on, which of course you do not have to do this. It's just what I'm doing. I kind of like that look. Now I made, this is the base of the journal cover. I made tops and bottoms for it out of her pages. So I mounted them onto cardstock again. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to make a nice, very stable, making a nice, very stable cover, right? And something here on the back so that it's a nice thing to write on as well as you write on the pages. It's stiff and, firm. And there you be. And then I sewed around it, which you don't have to, of course. And of course you're going to ink all the way around this. I'll just ink this a little bit here just to show you what it's going to look like. And so I'll be gluing this on top. like so. Now for the paper on the inside, I have here some tea stain paper. We want them to fit inside here, but we want this papers to be slightly, just a tad bit smaller, just a little bit. So I'm just going to come in like 1/8 of an inch shorter that way. And here's my middle. So I'm going to come in probably a little, like 1/4 of an inch that way. So I will cut my papers down to match those dimensions. Ended up with paper that was 7 5/8 by 9 3/4. So 7 5/8 by 9 3/4 piece of paper. And then of course I rounded the edges, and that's going to be the inside. So this is really going to be a writing journal, and the papers are going to fit inside like so. What I'm going to do, and of course again this isn't totally necessary, but I'm going to staple these together. However, you might want to consider sewing them together, and that way when you get done with these particular papers, then you can replace them with other ones and keep them all, you know, neat together. And so that will be the cover that goes inside this journal that you can use over and over. And I am going to use this seam binding. I like the look of this to hold the journal inside. Now you could use elastic, you could use anything you want, anything that will fit through the holes. And put this inside like so. And I think it looks pretty to have this tied on the inside, but I also think it's nice because you can just untie it to take your papers in and out. I like that idea as well. So there's that. I'll ribbon off there. And so there you be. And the nice firmness is a nice writing surface that you should be able to write on quite nicely. Maybe this last page over the bow might be a little dicey, but other than that, you should be able to write in it the way it is. And if not, you can always take this out and, you know, write in it too. So there you go, and that is the journal. And so thanks so much for following along. I hope it was helpful, and I will see you next time. And pretty soon, sometime this week, I'm going to be putting these in my Etsy shop and doing a flip through of both of these journals. So yeah, we will get together soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.